The gunshot echoed across the canyon like a death knell, and Nathan McCord knew someone was in terrible trouble before he even urged his horse down the rocky slope toward the source of the sound. The autumn air in the Dakota Territory carried a sharp bite in October of 1878, and the afternoon sun hung low enough to cast long shadows across the rugged terrain. Nathan had been checking his trap lines in the mountains above Bismarck when he heard it, that distinctive crack of a rifle that spoke of desperation rather than hunting. His gelding, a sturdy bay named Copper, picked his way carefully down the steep incline while Nathan scanned the valley below with sharp gray eyes that had seen 30 winters in this wild country. What he found made his heart sink. A covered wagon sat tilted at a dangerous angle, its right rear wheel completely shattered. Scattered supplies littered the ground, flour sacks torn open by what looked like coyote tracks, and near the wagon's broken tongue lay a woman, utterly still. Nathan kicked Copper into a faster descent, rocks skittering beneath the horse's hooves. As he drew closer, he could see the woman's dark hair had come loose from its pins, spreading across the dusty ground like spilled ink. Her dress was torn at the shoulder, and a rifle lay just beyond her outstretched hand, recently fired by the smell of it. He dismounted before Copper fully stopped, dropping to his knees beside her. His rough hand found the pulse at her throat, and relief flooded through him when he felt the steady beat beneath his fingertips. She was alive, just unconscious. Her face was streaked with dirt and tears, and when he gently turned her head to check for injuries, he found a nasty bruise forming at her temple. "Madam, can you hear me?" Nathan's voice was gravel rough from days alone in the mountains, but he tried to gentle it. No response. He quickly assessed the situation. The wheel was beyond repair, at least 3 spokes snapped clean through. The horses that should have been hitched to the wagon were nowhere in sight, likely spooked and run off. From the tracks and the state of the supplies, she had been here since at least the night before. The woman stirred slightly, a soft moan escaping her lips. Nathan carefully slid his arms beneath her, lifting her as gently as he could. She was lighter than he expected, too light, and he wondered how long she had been traveling alone and how much she had been eating. He carried her to a flat spot near some shelter rocks and laid her down on his own bedroll that he quickly retrieved from Copper. He worked fast, building a small fire and fetching water from his canteen to wet a cloth. When he pressed the cool fabric to her forehead, her eyelids fluttered. For a moment, he caught a glimpse of eyes the color of honey in sunlight before they closed again. Nathan had lived in these mountains for 8 years, ever since he left his father's ranch in Wyoming after his mother passed. He preferred the solitude, the company of animals and wind and stone. People complicated things, brought pain and loss. But as he sat beside this unconscious stranger, something stirred in his chest that he had not felt in a very long time. A need to protect, to help, to connect. The sun was painting the sky orange and purple when she finally came around fully. Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then widening in alarm as she realized a strange man was hovering over her. "Easy now," Nathan said, holding up his hands to show he meant no harm. "You are safe. I found you by your wagon. You have been out cold for a while." She tried to sit up too quickly and swayed, her hand going to her temple where the bruise was darkening. Nathan steadied her with a hand on her shoulder. "Slowly," he advised. "You took a nasty knock to the head." "My wagon," she said, her voice hoarse and cracking. "The wheel broke. I tried to fix it, but the horses spooked when a cougar came prowling around. I fired at it, must have scared it off, but then everything went black. I do not remember what happened after that. Looks like you hit your head when you fell. How long have you been out here?" 2 days, maybe 3. She accepted the canteen he offered and drank deeply. I am trying to get to Bismarck. I have family there, or at least I thought I did. My brother wrote that he had a homestead, but his last letter was months ago. What is your name? Nathan asked. Olivia. Olivia Sanders. She looked at him properly for the first time, taking in his weathered face, the beard that covered his jaw, the buckskin jacket that marked him as a mountain man. And you are Nathan McCord. I have a cabin about 5 miles north of here, up in the high country. I was checking my trap lines when I heard your shot. Olivia looked past him to where her wagon sat broken and useless. Her face crumpled and she bit her lip hard enough to go white. Everything I own is in that wagon, everything I have left from my old life. Where did you come from? Ohio. My husband died last winter. Consumption took him slowly. Her voice was flat, emotionless, as if she had cried all the tears she had. We had a small farm, but the bank owned most of it. When he passed, they took it all. My brother Marcus wrote and said I could come west, start fresh. So I sold what little I could, bought that wagon and those horses, and started the journey. Took me 4 months to get this far. Nathan felt a surge of anger at the injustice of it. This woman who had already lost so much, now stranded and alone in country that could kill you if you made one wrong move. He had seen it happen before, seen the trail littered with broken dreams and broken people. The wagon cannot be fixed, not here at least, he said carefully. And your horses are long gone, but I can help you get to Bismarck. It is about 15 miles as the crow flies, but closer to 20 by the trail. Too far to walk in your condition, especially with winter coming on. I cannot ask you to do that. You have your own life, your own work. You are not asking, I am offering. Nathan stood and walked to Copper, rummaging in his saddlebags. He pulled out some jerky and hardtack, meager rations but better than nothing. First, you need to eat something. Then we will figure out what to do with your belongings. Olivia ate slowly, each bite seeming to take effort. Nathan watched her in the fading light and felt that strange pull again. She was pretty, even dirty and exhausted as she was, but it was more than that. There was a strength in the set of her jaw, a determination in her eyes that spoke of someone who had endured and survived. As darkness fell completely, Nathan built up the fire and laid out his blankets. You sleep there, he said, pointing to the bedroll by the fire. I will keep watch tonight, make sure that Cougar does not come back or anything else. I cannot take your bed. You have a head injury and you have been through hell. Do not argue with me, Miss Sanders. Something in his tone, gentle but firm, made her relent. She settled onto the bedroll, pulling the blanket up to her chin. Nathan sat with his back against a rock, his rifle across his knees, and watched the stars emerge one by one in the vast Dakota sky. Mr. McCord. Her voice drifted across the fire, soft and uncertain. Nathan. Just Nathan. Nathan, then. Thank you. I thought I was going to die out here. I had given up. You do not seem like the giving up type to me. You would be surprised what losing everything can do to a person. He understood that better than she knew. Get some rest. Tomorrow we will sort things out. She was quiet for a long moment, then said, I was married for 3 years. Thomas was a good man, kind, but I never felt with him what I imagine people mean when they talk about love. It was comfortable, practical. We helped each other survive. Is that terrible to admit? Nathan was surprised by her honesty, by the intimacy of the confession. I think people make marriages for all kinds of reasons. Survival is as good as any. Have you ever been married? No, came close once, long time ago, but she chose someone else, someone with better prospects. Last I heard, she was running a boarding house in Cheyenne, happy as could be. I took to the mountains after that, figured if I was going to be alone, might as well really be alone. And has it made you happy? The question caught him off guard. I do not know if happy is the right word. Content, maybe, or at least I was until today. What changed today? He looked at her across the fire, met those honey-colored eyes that reflected the flames. I found a reason to come down from the mountain. Olivia's breath caught and she looked away, color rising in her cheeks despite the dirt and exhaustion. You should not say things like that. Why not? Because I am a widow who has lost everything, because you are a stranger, because none of this makes any sense. The heart does not care much about sense, I have found. She did not answer, just pulled the blanket higher and closed her eyes. But Nathan saw the small smile that tugged at her lips before she hid it. The night passed slowly. Nathan dozed occasionally but mostly kept watch. The cougar never returned, though he heard coyotes yipping in the distance and once, the ghostly call of an owl. When dawn broke cold and clear, he found Olivia already awake, sitting up and examining the contents of her wagon with a critical eye. Most of it is ruined, she said when he joined her. The flour, the sugar, anything the animals got to, but there are some clothes, some tools, a few personal items, my mother's Bible, a quilt she made. Her voice broke on the last word. We will take what we can carry. I will come back for the rest once I get you to Bismarck. That is too much to ask. Stop worrying about what is too much to ask. I am offering because I want to help. Now, can you ride? I can try. Nathan fashioned a pack from one of the canvas tarps, loading it with Olivia's most precious belongings and what supplies were salvageable. He tied it securely behind Copper's saddle, then helped Olivia mount. She sat side saddle in her long skirt, and he swung up behind her, his arms around her to hold the reins. The closeness was both awkward and electrifying. Nathan could smell the lavender water she must have used in her hair days ago, now mixed with dust and sweat. He could feel the tension in her body as she tried to sit properly without leaning against him. You can relax, he said softly, his breath stirring the loose hair at her temple. It is a long ride, and you will not last if you hold yourself that stiff. Gradually, she eased back against his chest. Nathan felt the exact moment she gave in, her weight settling against him, her head tucking just beneath his chin. It felt right in a way he could not explain and did not want to examine too closely. They rode in silence for the first hour, picking their way along the narrow mountain trail that wound down toward the valley. Copper was sure-footed and patient, taking his time with the double load. The morning sun warmed them slowly, burning off the chill. Tell me about your brother, Nathan said, breaking the quiet. Marcus, you said. He is 5 years older than me. Came west right after the war. He fought for the Union, saw terrible things. When it ended, he could not settle back into normal life in Ohio. So he took advantage of the Homestead Act, claimed land near Bismarck. His letters made it sound like paradise. Wide open spaces, rich soil, plenty of game. He met a woman, a widow with a young son. Last I heard, they were planning to marry. When was that last letter? 6 months ago, maybe longer. I wrote to tell him I was coming, but I do not know if he ever got it. The mail is unreliable out here. Bismarck has grown a lot in the past few years, Nathan said. The Northern Pacific Railroad came through, changed everything. It is a real town now, not just a collection of tents and shanties. If your brother is still there, we will find him. And if he is not, Nathan tightened his arms around her slightly, a gesture of reassurance. Then we will figure something else out, one problem at a time. They stopped at midday to rest the horse and eat. Nathan led Olivia to a small creek, and she drank deeply from the cold, clear water. She washed her face and hands, tried to do something with her tangled hair. Without pins or a brush, the best she could manage was a loose braid that hung over one shoulder. I must look a fright, she said, catching Nathan watching her. You look like someone who survived. That is beautiful in its own way. She laughed. a genuine sound that transformed her face. "You are either very kind or very strange, Nathan McCord. Can I not be both?" They sat on the creek bank, sharing the last of his jerky. Olivia told him more about Ohio, about her life before Thomas, before loss became her constant companion. She had been a school teacher, she said, loved working with children. Her parents died when she was 20, a fever that swept through their town. Marcus was already gone west, so she had no one. Thomas proposed, and it seemed like the answer to her loneliness. But it was not, Nathan said. It was not a question. No, it just made the loneliness different, deeper somehow. To be alone when you are by yourself is one thing. To be alone when you are lying next to someone every night is another. I am sorry. Do not be. I think maybe that is why I took the risk to come here. Not just because of Marcus's letters, but because I wanted to feel something other than that emptiness. I wanted to feel alive again, even if it was through fear or hardship. Anything was better than the nothing I was drowning in. Nathan reached out and took her hand. It was small and work-roughened, the hand of a woman who had learned to survive. "You are alive. You made it this far. That takes more courage than most people have." Olivia looked at their joined hands, then up at his face. "I have known you less than a day. Why do I feel like I can tell you anything? Maybe because we are both people who understand what it means to lose things, to start over, to keep going when it would be easier to stop." She squeezed his hand, and they sat like that for a long while, just two people by a creek in the middle of the vast Dakota Territory, finding comfort in simple contact. When they resumed riding, Olivia was more relaxed, leaning against Nathan without hesitation. She asked him about his life in the mountains, and he found himself telling her things he had not spoken of in years. About his mother, who loved books and music and tried to bring culture to a rough ranch in the Wyoming wilderness. About his father, a hard man who showed love through work and provision rather than words. About his younger sister, Rose, who married a banker in Denver and sent him letters he rarely answered because he did not know what to say. "You should write to her," Olivia said. "Family is precious." "I lost mine before I understood that. Maybe I will." As the sun began its descent toward the western horizon, they emerged from the mountains onto the rolling prairie that stretched toward Bismarck. In the distance, Nathan could see the smoke from the town's chimneys, the glint of the Missouri River winding like a silver ribbon through the landscape. "There," he said, pointing. "We will reach it before dark if we keep steady." But Olivia had gone tense in his arms. "Nathan, I am scared. What if Marcus is not there? What if he is, but he does not want me? What if I came all this way for nothing? Then you will have options. You said you were a teacher. Bismarck needs teachers. Or you could work in one of the shops or at the hotel. You are not helpless, Olivia. You just need a chance to catch your breath and find your footing. I have $11 to my name. Everything else went into that wagon and those supplies. $11 is more than some people start with, and you are not alone anymore." She twisted in the saddle to look at him, and their faces were suddenly very close. "Why are you doing this? Really?" Nathan met her gaze steadily. "Because when I saw you lying there, something in me woke up, something I thought was dead. I have spent 8 years hiding in those mountains, telling myself I was happy with solitude. But the truth is, I was just scared. Scared of feeling too much, of losing again. Then you came into my life like a gunshot echoing across a canyon, and suddenly nothing looks the same. I am doing this because I want to, because I need to, because maybe you are not the only one getting a second chance here." Tears spilled down Olivia's cheeks, cutting clean tracks through the remaining dust on her face. "I am afraid of this, of what I am feeling. It is too fast, too much." "Then we will go slow. We will figure it out together. But do not ask me to walk away, Olivia. I could not do it now even if I wanted to." She reached up and touched his face, her palm against his bearded cheek, her thumb brushing the corner of his mouth. "I do not want you to walk away. That scares me more than anything else." Nathan turned his head and pressed a kiss to her palm, a gesture so tender it made her breath hitch. Then he gently turned her back around and urged Copper forward, his heart pounding harder than it had in years. They rode into Bismarck as the sun touched the horizon, painting the town in shades of gold and amber. The settlement had indeed grown since Nathan's last visit over a year ago. Proper wooden buildings lined the main street now, replacing many of the rougher structures. The railroad depot stood prominent, with tracks stretching east and west. People moved about their evening business, merchants closing up shops, cowboys heading toward the saloons, families walking home to supper. Nathan felt Olivia tense again as they entered the town proper. He stopped at the general store, figuring it was as good a place as any to start looking for information about Marcus Sanders. The store owner, a round man with a friendly face and spectacles perched on his nose, looked up from his ledger as they entered. His eyes widened slightly at their bedraggled appearance, but his smile remained genuine. "Help you folks?" "I hope so," Nathan said. "We are looking for a man named Marcus Sanders. He homesteaded somewhere near here a few years back. You know him?" The store owner's face changed, sympathy flooding his features. "I knew Marcus. Good man, paid his debts on time, treated folks fairly, but I am afraid I have bad news. He passed on about 4 months back, snakebite out on his land. By the time they got him to the doctor, the poison had spread too far." Olivia made a sound like she had been struck, and Nathan put his arm around her shoulders, holding her up. "What about his wife? The woman he was planning to marry, Martha Hensley. She is still around." "Went back to running her boarding house after Marcus died. It is the White House 3 streets over, near the church. She took it hard, losing him. They were supposed to be married in the spring." "Thank you for the information," Nathan said. He guided Olivia back outside where she stood trembling in the fading light. "He is gone," she whispered. "My only family, and he is gone. I came all this way for nothing. No, not for nothing." Nathan tilted her chin up, forcing her to look at him. "You came here for a new start, and you are going to get one. Let us go talk to Martha. Maybe she can help, or at least tell you more about your brother." Olivia nodded numbly, and they walked through the dusty streets leading Copper behind them. The boarding house was easy to spot, a neat 2-story building with a front porch and lace curtains in the windows. Warm light spilled from inside, and Nathan could smell something cooking, beef and onions that made his stomach growl. He knocked on the door, and it opened to reveal a woman in her early 40s, handsome rather than pretty, with strong features and kind eyes. She wore a simple dress and an apron, flour dusting her hands. "Can I help you?" Then her eyes fixed on Olivia, and her expression shifted to shock. "Lord have mercy, you must be Olivia. You look just like the photograph Marcus showed me." "You are Martha." Olivia's voice was barely a whisper. "I am. Come in, both of you. You look half dead on your feet." Martha ushered them inside, her practical nature taking over. She called for her son, a boy of about 10, to take care of the horse, then led them into a cozy parlor. "Sit down before you fall down. I will get you some food and coffee. Then you can tell me how you got here." Over the next hour, seated in Martha's warm kitchen, the story spilled out. Olivia told her about the journey, the broken wagon, collapsing. Nathan filled in the parts she could not remember. Martha listened, shaking her head in amazement. "Marcus talked about you all the time," Martha said, reaching across the table to clasp Olivia's hand. "He wrote you every month without fail, worried when he did not hear back. He was going to go east to fetch you himself, soon as we were married. He wanted you at the wedding, wanted you to be part of our life here." "I never got most of his letters," Olivia said, tears flowing freely now. "The last one I received was from 6 months ago. I wrote back to tell him I was coming, but it must not have reached him in time." "The mail is terrible," Martha agreed. "Things get lost all the time, especially in winter. He must have sent a dozen letters." She paused, studying Olivia carefully. "You have had quite a journey and you have lost so much. But Marcus would want me to help you, and I want to as well. I have a room here, empty since my other boarder moved to his own place last month. It is yours as long as you need it." "I cannot pay much," Olivia admitted. "I only have—" "Marcus left something for you," Martha interrupted. "He did not have much, but he had a little money saved and his land. In his will, he left it all to you. Said if anything happened to him, his baby sister should have what he built. The lawyer has been holding the papers, waiting to see if you would show up." Olivia covered her face with her hands and sobbed, great heaving cries that shook her whole body. Nathan moved closer, pulling her against his chest, letting her grieve for everything she had lost and everything she had found. Martha watched them with wise eyes that saw more than Nathan wanted to reveal. When Olivia finally cried herself out, Martha insisted they both stay the night. "You need proper rest, proper food. Tomorrow we will deal with lawyers and land claims and all the rest. Tonight, you just need to recover." Martha showed Olivia to a small room upstairs, clean and comfortable with a real bed and fresh linens. Nathan was given a room down the hall, but he found himself hesitating in the hallway, wanting to check on Olivia one more time. He knocked softly on her door. "It is Nathan. Come in." He entered to find her sitting on the bed, still dressed, staring at her hands. She looked up as he closed the door behind him, and for a moment they just looked at each other. "I should have felt happy about the land, the money," she said. "But all I can think is that Marcus died alone, that he wanted me here and I was too late." Nathan sat beside her on the bed, taking her hand. "You could not have known. You came as soon as you could, and he did not die alone, not really. He had Martha and her son. He had a community. He was loved. I was his family. Family is more than blood, Olivia. It is the people who show up for you, who stand by you. Martha loved him. I can see it in her eyes. She was his family too." Olivia leaned her head on Nathan's shoulder. "What happens now? Now you rest. Tomorrow we sort out the legal matters, get you settled. After that, we figure out what comes next. And you? Will you go back to your mountain?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Nathan thought about his cabin, the solitude he had craved for so long. It seemed impossibly far away now, a relic of a life that no longer fit. "I do not know," he admitted. "Part of me wants to. It is what I know, what I am comfortable with. But another part of me wants to stay, wants to see what might happen if I take a risk for once in my life." Olivia lifted her head to look at him. "I am a risk, the best kind." He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs stroking her cheeks. "You make me want things I thought I had given up on. Home, family, a future that is more than just surviving until the next season. We barely know each other. I know you are brave. I know you are strong. I know that when I look at you, something in my chest feels like it is waking up after a long winter. Is that enough to start with? It might be." She closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. "Stay with me tonight, not like that, just stay." "I do not want to be alone." Nathan knew it was probably improper, knew Martha would have opinions if she found out, but he could not make himself care about propriety when Olivia looked at him with such naked need in her eyes. "I will stay," he said. They lay down together on top of the covers, still fully clothed. Olivia curled against his side, her head on his chest, and Nathan wrapped his arms around her. It was innocent but intimate, two souls finding comfort in each other's presence. Within minutes, exhausted beyond measure, Olivia fell asleep. Nathan lay awake longer, listening to her breathe, feeling the weight and warmth of her against him, and marveling at how completely his life had changed in just 2 days. Morning came with pale sunlight streaming through the window and the smell of fresh coffee and bacon drifting up from downstairs. Olivia stirred first, blinking sleepily, then seeming to realize where she was and who she was wrapped around. She looked up at Nathan, color flooding her cheeks. "Good morning," he said softly. "Good morning." She did not pull away, though, and Nathan took that as a good sign. "We should probably get downstairs before Martha comes looking for us. Probably." But neither of them moved for a long moment, just savoring the quiet intimacy of waking up together. Finally, reluctantly, they disentangled themselves. Olivia tried to smooth her wrinkled dress and tame her hair while Nathan attempted to look like he had spent the night in his assigned room. They failed spectacularly, but Martha, bless her, said nothing when they appeared in the kitchen, just smiled knowingly and poured them coffee. "I sent word to Lawyer Roberts that you are here," Martha said. "He will be by after lunch to discuss Marcus's estate. In the meantime, Olivia, I have some dresses that might fit you. You are welcome to them, and there is a bath house just down the street if you want to get properly cleaned up." Olivia's eyes filled with grateful tears. "You are too kind." "Nonsense. We take care of our own here. And you are Marcus's sister, which makes you family." Nathan spent the morning arranging to have Olivia's remaining possessions retrieved from the broken wagon. He hired 2 men with a strong cart to make the journey, gave them detailed directions, and paid them half up front. Then he visited the blacksmith, a burly man named Tom who owed him a favor from a few years back. "I need work," Nathan said without preamble. "Something steady, at least for the winter. You still looking for help?" Tom raised his eyebrows. "The mountain man wants to come down to civilization." "What brought this on?" "A woman," Nathan said simply. Tom laughed, a booming sound that made several horses in the nearby corral lift their heads. "It is always a woman, is it not? Well, you are in luck. My apprentice ran off to try his fortune in the gold fields last week. I could use someone who knows his way around metal and is not afraid of hard work. Pay is decent, and there is a room above the shop if you need it." "I need it. When can I start?" "Yesterday would have been good, but tomorrow will do. Welcome to Bismarck, Nathan McCord." When Nathan returned to the boarding house, he found Olivia transformed. She had bathed and changed into one of Martha's dresses, a simple blue cotton that brought out the color of her eyes. Her hair was clean and pinned up properly, and some of the exhaustion had left her face. She looked beautiful. "You have been busy," she said, seeing his expression. "I can tell by that look on your face. I found work at the blacksmith shop. Tom is going to take me on." Olivia's hand flew to her mouth. "Nathan, you do not have to stay here because of me. Your life is in the mountains. My life was in the mountains. Maybe it is time for a new life." Before she could respond, Martha called them into the parlor where Lawyer Roberts waited. He was a thin, precise man with wire spectacles and a no-nonsense demeanor. He spread papers across Martha's table and walked them through Marcus's estate. It was not a fortune, but it was substantial. 160 acres of claimed land, a small cabin that Marcus had been building, $300 in the bank, and various tools and equipment. All of it was now Olivia's. "The land is good," Roberts explained. "Near water, decent soil. Your brother was planning to expand, maybe start a small cattle operation. He had vision, Marcus did. It is a shame he did not live to see it through." Olivia signed the papers with shaking hands, officially becoming a landowner in the Dakota Territory. When it was done, she sat back, looking dazed. "I own land," she said, as if testing the words. I came here with nothing and now I own land." "Marcus would be proud," Martha said, squeezing her shoulder. That evening, after Roberts left and supper was finished, Nathan and Olivia walked through the town. It was mid-October now, and the air had that crystalline quality that spoke of winter lurking just around the corner. They walked without speaking at first, just enjoying being together, away from the weight of decisions and grief. Finally, Nathan broke the silence. "What will you do with the land?" "I do not know. I have never farmed, never ranched. I was a school teacher in a town. I do not know the first thing about making a homestead work. You could sell it. I could." She stopped walking and turned to face him. "Or I could learn. I could hire help or find a partner. I could build something there, something lasting. Make Marcus's dream come true, even if he is not here to see it. That would take years. It would be hard work, harder than anything you have done before." "I know. But I am tired of taking the easy path, Nathan. I am tired of just surviving. I want to build something, create something. And I want—" She stopped, biting her lip. "What do you want?" "I want you there with me. I know that is insane. I know we have known each other for 3 days, but I have never felt this way before, this certainty. You make me feel alive. You make me feel like I can do anything. Is that crazy?" Nathan pulled her close, right there in the middle of the street, and kissed her. It was their first real kiss, and it felt like coming home. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. "If it is crazy, then we are both insane," he said. "Because I feel the exact same way. I will help you build that homestead. We will make it work together." "You are sure? You would give up your mountains for me?" "I am not giving them up. I am trading one kind of life for another, better one. A life with you in it." Olivia kissed him again. And if anyone in Bismarck was scandalized by the public display, neither of them noticed or cared. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. Nathan started working at the blacksmith shop, and he found he enjoyed the work, the rhythm of hammer on anvil, the satisfaction of creating something useful with his hands. Tom was a good boss, patient and skilled, and he taught Nathan techniques he had never learned from just repairing his own tools in the mountains. Olivia split her time between helping Martha at the boarding house and learning about farming and ranching from anyone who would teach her. She talked to other homesteaders who came to town for supplies, absorbed their advice about planting and livestock and water management. She read every book and pamphlet she could get her hands on, and every evening, Nathan and Olivia found time to be together. They walked, they talked, they learned each other. Nathan discovered that Olivia had a sharp sense of humor that emerged once she felt safe. She discovered that Nathan, for all his rough exterior, had a gentle soul that expressed itself in small kindnesses. He brought her wildflowers. She mended his shirts. They built a relationship brick by brick, moment by moment. One cold evening in early November, Nathan invited Olivia to visit Marcus's land with him. They borrowed Martha's buggy and drove out of town as the sun set, painting the prairie in shades of orange and crimson. The land was everything Roberts had described, a beautiful stretch of rolling grassland with a creek running through it, and the beginnings of a cabin on a small rise. Marcus had gotten the walls up and part of the roof before he died. It was rough but solid, and Nathan could see the vision behind it. With work, it could be expanded into a real home. "We could finish it," Olivia said, walking through the empty rooms. "Add on, make it bigger. There is good timber in those hills to the north. We could have a barn, a chicken coop, a garden plot." Nathan asked, even though his heart was already pounding with hope. Olivia turned to face him, and in the dying light she looked ethereal, like something out of a dream. "Marry me, Nathan McCord," he blinked, certain he had misheard. "What, marry me?" I know it is supposed to be the man who asks, but I am tired of waiting for things to happen to me. I want to make them happen. I love you. I know it is fast and probably foolish, but I do not care. I love you and I want to build a life with you, so marry me." Nathan crossed the empty room in 3 strides and caught her up in his arms, spinning her around until she laughed. "Yes, absolutely yes. I love you too, Olivia Sanders. I have loved you since I found you collapsed by that wagon. You are the bravest, most beautiful, most infuriating woman I have ever met, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." They kissed in the half-built cabin as the sun disappeared below the horizon, and when they finally came up for air, they were both grinning like fools. "We should probably tell Martha," Olivia said, "and we need a preacher. There is a circuit preacher who comes through once a month. He will be here next week." Nathan hesitated, then said, "But I want to do this properly. I want to ask you in the way I should have been asked first." He dropped to one knee, taking her hand in his. The floor was rough wood, unfinished, and the walls were bare, but none of that mattered. "Olivia Sanders, would you do me the great honor of becoming my wife? I do not have much to offer you except hard work and whatever love I can give, but it is all yours if you will have me." Tears streamed down her face, but she was smiling. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." They told Martha that night, and she cried and hugged them both and immediately began planning. The wedding would be small, she declared, just close friends, but it would be done right. She would make the cake. Her son could serve as witness. They would hold it in the church, and afterwards there would be a meal at the boarding house. "Marcus would have loved this," Martha said, wiping her eyes. "He wanted you to be happy, Olivia. He would have liked Nathan very much." The week passed quickly. Nathan worked extra hours to save money, and Olivia began the process of ordering supplies they would need for the homestead. They made lists together in the evenings, planning their future. Lumber, nails, tools, seed for spring planting, chickens, a milk cow, 2 horses to replace the ones Olivia had lost. "We will need help," Nathan said. "At least for the building part. We cannot raise a barn by ourselves." "We will have a barn raising," Martha suggested. "That is what people do here. Everyone comes together, helps out. Then you do the same for others when they need it. That is how communities work." The circuit preacher arrived on schedule, a jovial man named Reverend Thomas, who was delighted to perform a wedding. The ceremony was set for Saturday afternoon, giving Olivia 3 days to prepare. Martha lent her a dress for the wedding, a beautiful cream-colored gown that had been Martha's own wedding dress years before. It fit Olivia perfectly with just a few alterations. Nathan bought a new shirt and had his beard trimmed properly for the first time in years. When he looked in the mirror, he barely recognized himself. Saturday dawned clear and cold, the first hard frost of the season glittering on every surface. Nathan woke early in his room above the blacksmith shop, too nervous to sleep. He kept thinking about how much his life had changed in just 6 weeks. 6 weeks ago, he had been alone in the mountains, content with his solitude. Now he was about to get married, about to commit to another person in the most permanent way possible. But when he thought about Olivia, about her strength and her courage, and the way she looked at him like he was something precious, all his doubts evaporated. This was right. This was what he was supposed to do. The church was small but packed when Nathan arrived. Tom was there with his family, Lawyer Roberts, several people from town who had befriended Olivia in the past weeks. Martha sat in the front row with her son, beaming with pride. Then Olivia appeared in the doorway, and Nathan forgot how to breathe. She was beautiful, luminous in Martha's cream dress with her dark hair piled on her head and a simple bouquet of dried wildflowers in her hands. But more than that, she was radiant with happiness. She walked down the aisle alone, no father or brother to give her away, but she did not need anyone. She was giving herself freely, choosing this life, choosing him. When she reached his side, Nathan took her hands, and they turned to face Reverend Thomas together. The ceremony was traditional. The vows' time honored words that thousands of couples had spoken before them. But when Nathan said, "I do," when he slipped the simple gold band on Olivia's finger, it felt like the most important thing he had ever done. And when Olivia said her own vows, her voice strong and sure, Nathan felt something settle deep in his chest, a sense of rightness, of home. "I now pronounce you man and wife," Reverend Thomas said, his voice booming through the small church. "You may kiss your bride." Nathan did, tenderly at first, then deeper as Olivia threw her arms around his neck. The small congregation applauded and cheered, and when they finally broke apart, both of them were grinning. "Hello, Mr. McCord," Olivia whispered. "Hello, Mrs. McCord," Nathan replied. The celebration at Martha's boarding house was joyful. There was food and music. Tom pulled out a fiddle and played lively tunes, and several of the guests danced in Martha's parlor. Nathan and Olivia were toasted multiple times, wished well, and offered advice both helpful and humorous. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Nathan and Olivia slipped away. They had decided to spend their wedding night at the homestead in the partially finished cabin. It would be cold and rough, but it would be theirs. They built a fire in the hearth Marcus had started, laid out bedrolls and blankets, and sat together watching the flames. It was late now, and they were both tired, but neither wanted to sleep yet. "Are you happy?" Nathan asked, his arm around Olivia's shoulders. "Happier than I ever thought possible," she said. "When I was lying by that broken wagon, I thought my life was over. I thought I had gambled everything and lost. But I was wrong. I had not lost. I had just arrived at the beginning." "I was barely living before I found you," Nathan admitted. "I thought isolation was the same as peace. But you showed me the difference. You showed me that being alive means taking risks, feeling things, connecting with other people." Olivia turned in his arms and kissed him slowly, sweetly. "We are going to have a good life here, Nathan. It will be hard, but it will be good." "The best," he agreed. They made love for the first time that night in the cabin Marcus had started to build, and it was tender and passionate and everything a wedding night should be. Afterwards, they lay wrapped in each other's arms, listening to the wind whistle around the incomplete walls, and neither of them had ever felt more content. The next morning they woke to find snow falling, big fat flakes that turned the world white. Winter had arrived. They spent the day making the cabin as weatherproof as possible, stuffing gaps with cloth and mud, securing the temporary roof. It was makeshift, but it would serve until spring when they could really begin building. Over the following weeks, Nathan worked on finishing the cabin whenever he was not at the blacksmith shop. Olivia proved to be surprisingly handy with a hammer and saw, and they worked side by side, building their home. Martha often brought food and supplies, refusing to let them run themselves into the ground. "You need to keep your strength up," she scolded. "Winter is hard enough without starving yourselves." By mid-December, the cabin was finished enough to be comfortable. It was small, just 2 rooms, but it was tight and warm with a good stove and real windows. They moved their few belongings in and spent their first night in their completed home feeling like royalty. "It is not much," Nathan said, looking around at the rough furniture he had built. "It is everything," Olivia corrected. "It is ours." Christmas came, and they celebrated quietly with Martha and her son, exchanging small gifts and sharing a feast Martha insisted on preparing. Olivia gave Nathan a new hat she had saved money to buy. Nathan gave Olivia a beautiful set of seed packets for spring planting that he had ordered specially from a catalog. "These are for our garden," he explained. "Tomatoes, beans, squash, everything we will need. And these," he pulled out another packet, "are flower seeds for beauty. Because a home needs beauty as much as it needs food." Olivia cried and kissed him, and Martha beamed like they were her own children. Winter in the Dakota Territory was brutal, but they survived it together. Nathan continued working at the blacksmith shop, and Olivia took a position teaching at the town school 3 days a week. The money was modest, but every penny went toward supplies for the spring. They made plans constantly, dreaming about what they would build, what they would plant, how they would grow their homestead. In late January, Olivia started feeling ill in the mornings. At first, she thought it was something she ate, but when it continued for over a week, Martha pulled her aside with knowing eyes. "Child, I think you might be with child," she said gently. The realization hit Olivia like lightning. She counted back and realized Martha was right. She was pregnant, probably had been since shortly after the wedding. When she told Nathan that evening, he looked stunned, then overjoyed, then terrified in quick succession. "A baby," he said, pacing their small cabin. "We are going to have a baby, are you certain?" "As certain as I can be without seeing a doctor. Martha is rarely wrong about these things." Nathan crossed to her and pulled her into his arms, holding her close. "I am going to be a father. You are going to be a mother. We are going to have a family. Are you happy?" Olivia asked, suddenly uncertain. "Happy does not even begin to cover it," Nathan said. "I am thrilled. I am scared out of my mind. I am amazed. I am everything all at once." They saw the doctor the next week, and he confirmed what they already knew. Olivia was healthy, the baby was developing well, and they could expect to welcome their first child sometime in late August or early September. The news changed everything and nothing. They still worked toward their goals, but now with added urgency. The cabin would need to be expanded before the baby came. They would need more income, more stability. Spring arrived slowly, the snow melting to reveal the prairie grass underneath, green and new. As soon as the ground thawed enough, Nathan began planting the garden while Olivia prepared the soil. They worked from dawn to dusk, and slowly their homestead began to take shape. In May, true to Martha's prediction, the community came together for a barn raising. Dozens of people showed up, neighbors and townsfolk, and in a single weekend, they raised a sturdy barn on the McCord property. It was overwhelming, the generosity and help, and both Nathan and Olivia found themselves moved to tears multiple times. "This is what it means to belong somewhere," Nathan said as he watched people work together, laughing and helping each other. "I never understood that before." Tom and several of the men helped Nathan add 2 more rooms to the cabin as well, expanding it so there would be space for the baby. Olivia sewed curtains and made a cradle with Martha's help. Every day, their home became more complete. By July, Olivia was heavily pregnant and had to stop teaching. She spent her days preparing for the baby, washing tiny clothes, organizing supplies. Nathan was endlessly solicitous, worried about her every moment. "I am not made of glass," she told him, amused by his hovering. "I know, but you are carrying our child. I am allowed to worry." The baby came on a hot night in early September, after a long day of labor that left both Olivia and Nathan exhausted. Martha served as midwife, and when the baby finally arrived, squalling and red-faced, Nathan felt his heart expand in a way he never could have imagined. "A boy," Martha announced, cleaning the baby and wrapping him in a soft blanket. "A healthy, strong boy." She placed the baby in Olivia's arms, and Nathan sat beside them on the bed, overwhelmed. His son. They had a son. "What should we name him?" Olivia asked, looking up at Nathan with tired, happy eyes. "Marcus," Nathan said without hesitation. Marcus Thomas McCord, after your brother and your late husband, men who made it possible for you to be here, for us to be together. Tears slipped down Olivia's cheeks. It is perfect. Little Marcus was a good baby, healthy and strong. He had Olivia's dark hair and Nathan's gray eyes, and from the moment he was born, he had both his parents wrapped completely around his tiny fingers. The first year was hard, balancing farming and Nathan's work at the blacksmith shop and raising a baby. But they managed, helping each other, leaning on their community when things got difficult. They bought chickens that spring and a milk cow and 2 horses. The garden flourished. Nathan built a chicken coop and expanded the barn. Marcus grew, learning to crawl, then walk, then talk. He was a happy child, curious about everything, and Nathan discovered that fatherhood suited him far better than he ever expected. He loved teaching his son about animals and plants, about the land they lived on. When Marcus was 2, Olivia became pregnant again. This time, she gave birth to twin girls, much to everyone's surprise. They named them Rose, after Nathan's sister, and Martha, after the woman who had helped them so much. The cabin had to be expanded again, and their homestead grew to accommodate their growing family. Nathan eventually left the blacksmith shop to focus full-time on farming and ranching. They bought cattle, started a small herd. The land Marcus Sanders had claimed became a thriving operation under Nathan and Olivia's care. Years passed. The children grew. Marcus became a serious, thoughtful boy who loved helping his father. Rose was wild and adventurous, always getting into mischief. Martha was quiet and bookish, more interested in reading than ranch work. Nathan and Olivia grew older together, their love deepening with each passing year. They had hard times, certainly. Drought one year that nearly wiped them out. A harsh winter that killed half their cattle. But they survived everything together, their partnership unshakable. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Nathan took Olivia back to the place where he had found her, where the broken wagon had once stood. The area looked different now, the land reclaimed by prairie grass, but they both remembered. "I was so scared that day," Olivia said, holding Nathan's hand. "I thought I was going to die alone." "Instead, you started living," Nathan said. "We both did. Do you ever regret leaving the mountains?" "Your solitary life," Nathan pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. "Not even for a moment. You gave me everything I did not know I needed. A home, a family, a reason to wake up every morning with joy instead of just resignation. I would live through that day 1,000 times if it meant ending up here with you. I love you, Nathan McCord, and I love you, Olivia McCord, always." They stood together on the prairie, the wind blowing through the grass, the sun warm on their faces. In the distance, they could see their homestead, their children playing in the yard, smoke rising from the chimney of the home they had built together. It was a good life, the one they had created from nothing but determination and love. Martha Hensley, their dear friend, lived well into her 70s, long enough to see the McCord children grow and marry and have children of their own. When she finally passed peacefully in her sleep, Nathan and Olivia mourned her deeply, but were grateful for the years they had shared. Nathan's sister Rose came to visit when Marcus was 12, and she was amazed by the life her brother had built. She stayed for a month, getting to know her nieces and nephews, and when she left, Nathan promised to write more often. He kept that promise. The homestead continued to prosper. Marcus the younger grew up to be a rancher like his father, taking over more and more of the operation as Nathan aged. Rose married a traveling doctor and moved to Montana. Martha became a teacher like her mother and opened a school in Bismarck. Nathan and Olivia watched their children build their own lives with pride and occasional worry, as all parents do. But mostly they were grateful. grateful for each day for each other, for the family they had created. On their 30th anniversary, surrounded by children and grandchildren, Nathan stood to make a toast. He was 55 now, his beard shot through with silver, his hands weathered by decades of hard work. But his eyes were still sharp, and when he looked at Olivia, they were filled with the same love they had held 30 years before. 30 years ago, I found a woman collapsed by a broken wagon, he said. I thought I was rescuing her, but the truth is she rescued me. She showed me that living means more than just surviving. It means opening your heart, taking risks, building something that lasts. Olivia, you have given me the best 30 years of my life. Here is to 30 more. Olivia stood and they kissed while their family cheered. She was 53 now, her dark hair threaded with gray, her face lined with age and laughter. But to Nathan, she was still the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. They did not get 30 more years. Life is not a fairy tale. But they got 15 more good ones. Years filled with love and family and the satisfaction of work well done. Nathan passed first, in his sleep at 70, his body simply worn out from a life fully lived. Olivia held his hand as he went, and her last words to him were, "Thank you for choosing me, for staying, for loving me so well." Olivia followed him 2 years later, surrounded by her children and grandchildren in the home she and Nathan had built. Her last words were, "Tell your father I am coming home." They were buried side by side on the hill overlooking their homestead, the land they had worked and loved and passed on to their children. Their graves looked out over the valley, over the barn and the expanded house, and the fields that still produced crops every year. The community of Bismarck never forgot Nathan and Olivia McCord. They became a legend of sorts, the story of the mountain cowboy who found a woman collapsed by her broken wagon, and instead of just helping and moving on, chose to stay and build a life with her. What he did next, how he loved her and built a family and a legacy that lasted generations, stunned the valley not because it was dramatic or shocking, but because it was so quietly extraordinary. It was a reminder that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose to love, choose to stay, choose to build something lasting in a world that is often temporary and harsh. Nathan McCord came down from his mountain for Olivia Sanders, and in doing so, found the life he was always meant to live. Their great-grandchildren still work the land today, still tell the story of how it all began with a broken wagon, and two people brave enough to take a chance on each other. The original cabin Nathan built has been preserved, a small museum of sorts, and people come from all over to see where the love story started, because that is what it was in the end. Not just a tale of survival or frontier hardship or Western adventure, though it contained all those elements. It was a love story, pure and simple, the kind of love that transforms lives, that builds legacies, that echoes through generations. Nathan found Olivia broken down and alone. He chose to help her, and in helping, found his own salvation. She chose to love him back, to build something with him, to take the shattered pieces of her old life and forge something new and beautiful. Together, they created not just a homestead, but a home, not just a family, but a legacy. And if you visit that cemetery on the hill above the McCord Ranch, you can still read the words carved into their shared headstone, words their children chose because they captured everything Nathan and Olivia meant to each other. Here lie Nathan and Olivia McCord. He found her by a broken wagon. She showed him the way home. Together, they built a love that could not be broken. The story of mountain cowboy Nathan McCord and the woman he found collapsed by her broken wagon became more than just a local tale. It became a testament to what is possible when two people choose each other against all odds, when they commit to building something together no matter how hard it gets. Their love story stunned the valley not with drama or scandal, but with its simple, enduring beauty. And in a world that often felt harsh and unforgiving, that was the most stunning thing of all.